Fresh, I bought them today. There's nothing wrong with them. Oh, shit. Okay. Oh, bloody hell.
We can't hear you, Dave, if you're talking to us.
Testing 1 2 1 2.
That's better.
There we go. Sorry I was late, everyone. Little bike issue, but that's not important. Let's just get straight into it. All right. Something must have happened to Morgan. That's all right. Let's just continue. Now we had the issue of that little Monday public holiday thing, which is super annoying. But I was contemplating if I should go with what was planned because what I normally do is talk about modulators specifically this week, but we kind of we've been playing with it with all that stuff heaps, especially with Wavetable. So I might give you a shortened version and then give you what was meant to be happening this week as well. All right, so I'm essentially doing a two for one. All right, so if we go into the notes, I'll share my screen. Here we go, share screen. Boom. All right, cool. Now notes, sound designs. Okay, so last week we did Wavetable, and then we talked about more modulation stuff. And what we're supposed to do this week is effects. Seeing how it is week, what week is it? Week 12. Yikes, yeah. 2 more weeks till your sample packs are due, yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to summarize modulation. And sure, you might feel sick to death of me talking about it, but it's so important because my thing about this whole course is to get people to at least modulate one or two things in their sounds from now on, right? Sure, there's a time and a place to leave a sound on max sustain now and again, but like for the bulk of your other sounds, your pads, your leads, your basses, they benefit heavily from even an envelope to filter thing. In fact, if you just did that from now on, just envelope to filter stuff, and just vary your timings to go between plucky to like wobbly sounds, whatever, or lush pad sounds, that would be fantastic. If you did that, that's enough. And it's twofold because some of you will prefer to work this way, where you open up an instrument for the first time or usual time. So if you kind of like open something like Vital, where is it? Vital Audio. Maybe you're not super familiar with it. Hang on, I need to make a link to the audio. 1 second. Listen to. And by the way, if I seem a little bit off, it's because I'm still kind of quietly fuming. Spending $750 to get my bike service and to have a couple parts not being fixed. It's super annoying. That's where I was. I was rushing to from the bike place because they said it'll be ready earlier, but they didn't. Anyway, I'm just venting. So in the chat she goes. Chat. Boom. Jump on that, please. Okay. So cool. Let's just say you put up an instrument for the first time and there's a high chance you go through the presets. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, nothing wrong with going through presets. In fact, for a lot of you, it's kind of like it should be bread and butter because maybe you're a composer more than an electronic producer. Maybe you make a varied range of music. So therefore, in that situation, then you're just trying to make music, right? You don't need the sound design is slightly less priority for you. My only thing is if you're an electronic focused producer, then sound design is higher priority, I think. Anyway, so let's just say you got this preset. More simple. My buddy's Elaine's project presets. He doesn't do everything simply. Okay, it's better. Now, so if you look up at a sim for the first time, right, your only kind of real job to kind of personalize the preset is to figure out where the modulators are. So, pop quiz. Some of you might know this instrument, some of you might not. I had to turn on my cursor, so let's go back here. Someone tell me roughly on the orientation of my screen where the modulators are. Where can you see them? It's like equivalent of tumbleweeds. Morgan, do you mind just muting your mic for a second?
Oh.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone see where the modulators? And remember, your two main modulators are envelopes and LFOs.
Bottom left, maybe.
Bottom left around here.
Yeah, I thought that might have been some.
So there's
I can't really read it
filter.
from where I'm looking, but
Yeah, that's all right. All right, let's zoom in a bit. Doesn't help that I'm zoomed out a bit. So remember, we're looking for envelopes and LFOs.
Aren't
Oh,
they
on the
top
right.
right hand?
Sorry, yeah.
Top right hand.
Yeah.
Say around here.
My bad.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's your envelopes. But to be more precise, you're not wrong, Morgan. Good. To be very precise, it's this entire section here to the right, not just the top right hand, but everything below here. So envelopes, LFOs, and random, whatever randoms are. Yeah. So if we look at another instrument, and I know I said we don't really want to spend too much time on this particular instrument, but we might as well, because I want to kind of relay my point, right? I'm looking at analog for the first time, an Ableton instrument, cool. Right, so I gotta look for my modulators. So I'm just gonna click around, because I realize if I do click around these panels, these windows changes, which is good. So what I'm looking for are modulators. So I'm in the filter section of appears, and not just appears, because whenever you see frequency, cutoff, or freak, or filter accompanied by resonance, there's no doubt that's the filter control. If I click here, I notice there's ADSR here stuff, so that means it's an envelope control, there's an envelope amount there. Those are the things I look for. Cool, it's all there. And then with some other basic knowledge of subtractor synthesizers, this section says amp, so if I click that panel, I should expect to see amp envelope. And the only thing missing is LFO, but if I look carefully, I see there's LFO 1 and 2 deactivated here, and I can change the stuff here. How do I route it? If I go back to these sections, I can see there's LFO 1 able to be sent here. If I click on this panel, it can be sent here as well. Right. So these are the basic principles I want you to remember, right? If you could, pull up an instrument, especially one you're not too familiar with, have a look at it. Here's one that I haven't mentioned in our classes at all. This is Ableton's newest instruments, technically. It's called Meld. I can see oscillators here, I can see filters here, that makes it easy. The middle part, through process of what's the word? Subtraction, elimination. Surely this is my envelope section. I can see A and B referring to voices 1 and 2 here. I can filter things, and then I can send things to the filters if I wanted to as well, which would be cool. Yeah, and I can route them using the matrix. LFO work. Going a little bit of movement. that should be your kind of go-to. If you're gonna go through the presets, fine. I don't mind that. I don't expect everyone to build sounds from scratch, but I want you to at least look for your modulators, because yes, if you can find them, then you can wield them, right? Because it's easy to change the oscillator, easy to change the filter, but where the sound dramatically and musically changes, it is in the modulation, the envelopes. So yeah, if I pull up another instrument here, pull up some keys or whatever, some what key sound I got. Here you go. Look for envelopes and I go, okay, cool. What happens when I change them? Where's this one going to? Right, just figure it out and get things to move. And automate them and play with them, right? Just throughout the progression of the song, just so you can create dynamics and movement. These aren't static, as in these can be left alone, but you shouldn't leave them alone all the time. You can automate them, you can play with them. It's like a guitarist playing the instrument. Do they play the same way every time? No, they hit a certain pedal, they start bending the strings, same thing. Treat this as a real organic instrument, just with a bit more of a electronic looking interface. So that's a nice way to play with your presets, okay? So be aware of your modulators. Now, my lessons do meld together a little bit, but forgive me if I haven't said this point, but I'll just say this and please tell me if I've said this before, okay? So to this point of time, unless I said it last week, we've only focused on envelopes and LFOs, and we're just barely playing with them, getting familiar with them. True? Now, I said that the two main modulators. I haven't really mentioned the other family of modulators. Now, did I mention this last week or not? Like, did I mention expressive modulators like mod wheel, sustain, MPE, any of these terms? Velocity tracking, note tracking. Have I mentioned this at all?
You've mentioned mod wheel before, but I'm pretty sure it was in reference as opposed to a proper explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely did mod wheel, but didn't do anything in depth about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. Same thing.
Same
as what
thing?
Morgan
Okay, cool,
said.
cool. All right, I'll touch on that and then we'll move forward to the other topic, okay? So, envelopes, LFOs, main modulators, you can just use those two things, you'll be fine. But some of you might want more, right? Particularly if you play instruments, or particularly if you want even more expression and dynamics for your instrument, all right? So I'm going to demonstrate this by getting a chord progression, hopefully a more static one. This one wasn't quite working out for me. Let's grab a more static. Cool. And I'll use Ableton's wavetable just to keep things simple. Cool. Nothing special, okay? Now, I'm gonna pop up an arpeggiator on this, just to give it a little bit of something. Just a nice little whatever. Now, just for fun, I'm gonna double click the MIDI and I'm gonna highlight these notes, just Command A, and I'm gonna randomize their velocity just to emulate the fact that I potentially can play an instrument. Because by default, when we double click notes in, they're just at one velocity, as in one level, which is exactly what that means. You're playing at the same loudness every time. So if you thought your sounds were a little bit static and they're not that interesting, one of the easiest things you can do is to change the velocity, right? Just to make it a bit more humanistic. And on top of that, you can hack this further by going into the MIDI effects category in your library here and implement an extra layer of randomized velocity to further humanize your sound. So it will spit out randomized, like unpredictable amounts of velocity up and down. You can control the range, but you want it to be quite dynamic. Now we're not hearing anything dramatic yet, right? But let me just quickly push this oscillator up a bit. Just something rich, and I'm going to close my filter. I'm going to decrease my filter cutoff. Let me just zoom in a bit so everyone can see. So it's nice and dull and almost inaudible. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to MIDI. We haven't talked about this yet in terms of Ableton Wavetable. What you see on the MIDI tab is, first of all, something's happening, isn't it? Let's zoom in. See how the velocity stuff I did, so up and down notes and whatever, this instrument can register what I'm pressing, how hard, how soft I'm pressing. And in this case, I'm faking it by using this randomized velocity tool as well. Okay. Now, as you...
So you didn't make many changes with the randomized velocity tool though. You basically left it as it was.
No, I set it on random. So if we scroll over here, I put it on this random, well, I just turned up the random dial. And what that does is it will randomize how loud and soft the notes are.
But you didn't change anything else?
Nope. Nope, not at all. So it's extremely dynamic. And in fact, you can see, look at this. See how it's just popping up and down and in an unpredictable way?
Mm-hmm.
Some's low, some's high, yep. Now, this instrument is registering that, which is great. Now, if you remember how we were using the matrix, you would use the amp envelope, envelope 2, envelope 3, LFO1, LFO2 to assign to a parameter, wouldn't you? All right? So if I hop over to MIDI, it's interesting that this velocity thing that it's tracking can also be sent to the filter, right? So what does that mean? It means that these performance things I'm alluding to here, so you can see a few of these performance things here, including this newer thing called MPE, which I will talk about very soon. These are performative modulators, right? Let's actually hear what it does, right? I'm going to send this velocity tracking to the filter. Where random might not work super well, especially if I haven't adjusted the range here. So the range being where the random, how wide the random notes are. So I might actually be a little bit more predictable. So I'm just going to push this a bit higher so it doesn't go down too low. Something like that. Push this further up. So when I'm pushing this further up, it's the sensitivity of this velocity tracking. Now, what's going to be interesting here is if I decide to put a reverb, super nice. Very delicate. I'll just open this slightly more. I'm doing this hacky way of doing it. I'm doing it by using a cheaty tool to do that. Like this guy's just punching out random. But if I wanted to do it properly, then I'll say I want specific accents. So for example, certain notes can be higher velocity. I can either play it in or draw it in more precisely. breezy this up with a faster rate of arpeggiator. It's probably a bit too busy. Let's go back down. Now, if I add a delay as well, this will sound quite nice. So it's fascinating because you have this extra layer on top of your traditional modulators. And in fact, we haven't done any traditional envelope or LFO work yet. So if I add that too, I'm going to get something quite interesting. That's literally two modulations. One is envelope to filter, traditional, right? That's my little pluck kind of shape, yeah? That's your bread and butter. Now I'm adding something that's a little bit more subtle, but potentially more powerful, which is your performative modulators. And yes, when using velocity tracking, right? Actually, it allows you to send how hard you press or how high you program your note, your melody and your bass lines. Specific notes can have high velocities and low ones, and high values can send different amounts of modulation to the instrument. So for example, to really make this fascinating, if I switch it to something like this, and also send this velocity tracking to good old wavetable position here. And remember, what I do in Ableton Wavetable is the same Serum and Vital. And remember, I'm only using one voice, right? So I'm going to use two voices now. And I'm going to show you another trick. There's a pan control here. This is the same with Vital and Serum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pan oscillator 1 slightly to the left, oscillator 2 slightly to the right. And I'm going to click back on the pan control of oscillator 1, and I'm going to send velocity tracking to that. And then if I go to the same pan control there, in other words, I'm going to get, what I'm trying to do is dynamic bouncing around the ear, if that makes sense. I don't know, that's audible over Teams. It should be. But just so you can see it as well, I'm going to open an analyzer, not that one, the other one. Number 3, yeah, just pay attention to this little screen. If it's purely mono, like just purely dead center, it will be just on the line. If it's stereo, it will be bouncing around this box, all right? Super dynamic. Fascinating. Okay. Anyway, now you're aware.
I have one quick question.
Yeah,
Where
go for
was
it.
Pan? I couldn't see it
Yes.
because you were quick. I was just doing something else.
I got you. So in
I was doing the
Wavetable,
actual
Ableton
thing.
Wavetable, the pan is
Yep.
here above the
Oh,
volume.
yeah, okay.
And it's hard to see. So it's not you. It's the design choices Ableton made. It's the fact that you don't see a pan label anywhere. You just see C. But in Ableton, C means that it's center currently.
Okay, cool. That's easy. Now I can do it.
Yeah. Now, okay, so that's velocity, how hard you press notes. Key. Can anyone guess what that one would do? So the next one over, next to velocity is key. This is not a typical thing. You can choose to modulate something. What do you reckon?
Is that just key signature? I don't know.
Ooh, kind of in the same ballpark. What
Like
else do you reckon?
semitones, like the number of semitones.
Yeah. To be more precise, you're not wrong, but a key is like quite literally The lower you are playing down the keyboard, you're setting a next to nothing amounts of modulation, and the higher you are on the keyboard, more modulation, right? So let me demonstrate that so you can hear. I'll set it to the filter. And to make it very obvious, I'll push some of these notes further up and down the octave, so this one can go higher. Down, and some quality inversions here. I think that's what you call them. There we go. Okay, let's turn the effects off because now everything sounds super brain dancey, but we don't want to do that. Focus on one thing there. I need to make it more dynamic, so I gotta push this even higher. Maybe, hang on. This arpeggio probably is not helping me here. There we go. Yeah. So that's key tracking, which is interesting as well, because what you can do in theory, there's a very practical use of this, especially if you want to play your sounds on the keyboard, or you have an actual synthesizer keyboard instrument. If you use key tracking, it means that potentially the lower notes are more muffled. If you assign the key tracking to the filter, lower notes could be more muffled and soft, and higher notes brighter and more open, which is really cool. Yeah. Something to really consider.
Okay, but at what level do you normally set it? Like in terms of, like I can see you're obviously setting that at about 41.
Yeah.
Do we ever take it into negative? What's the kind of range in which we'd put?
Yeah, you do negative if you want the inverse. So if you want high notes to be more dull and the low notes to be bright. It really depends on what you're after. So negative inverses that relationship.
No rules, right?
No rules, exactly. And the range, unfortunately, depends on the instrument. It just so happens to be that Ableton's is from 0 to 100 or minus 100. It's almost, the way to think about it is like this. Wherever you set your filter cutoff, that range is essentially the percentage amount it increases. And unfortunately, in Ableton Wavetable, you can't see that well. So if it's 100%, it's going to go 100% up, like that. And if it's only 40 something that I had, it means it goes 40% of the way up. Does that make sense? Yeah. And if you're using tools like Vital and Serum, they at least let you see that a bit better. In fact, you might be interested to know how to do it in Serum and Vital. Well, now I probably don't need to do it when I show you where it is. It's right here on the screen. See this place I'm circling? This area, it says Velo, and there's a dial there, and there's a note and a dial there. And if you realize what's going on in Serum, this whole bottom half area is your modulators anyway. Yeah. So I'll quickly cook it up. Let's do arpeggiator. Sorry, that's so high. Push this down an octave. Actually. And we just increase the gate. So now that there's an arpeggiator going at whatever velocity it is, look what Serum's doing. It can actually show you what the velocity it's detecting. So now I can send that to the filter cutoff and do the same thing, and I can also send the note tracking. Super easy. But with Serum, you get the extra benefit of sending that velocity and note tracking to something that's a bit more creative, like effects. So if I want, for example, this cooked sounding boat effect, let's make it work first. Okay, all right, I'm gonna send this velocity to this shift dial. This could be a bit much. If I do say so myself, I'm going to also use a envelope to filter. Chorus. Let's send note tracking to chorus rate. Anyway, and in Vital, I don't have every plugin installed on my computer anymore, so I'm not going to show every plugin how they do it, but because I do recommend if people don't have Serum, get Vital because of the price point, I might as well show you Vital's way of doing it. Note and velocity tracking are here. So let's enable filter 1 because it's always off by default. Let's shape the envelope. Let's send note. See how it does register it, and then the velocity as well. Let's send velocity to the filter cutoff. Same thing. Let's do note tracking to delay time. I just thought that would be a really cool idea. Probably a bit busy. That's okay. Anyway, yeah, interesting. So, on that note, when I go back to Ableton Wavetable, we see velocity, key tracking. We also see pitch bend. Yes, there's a pitch bend control. Who here present have, how do I grammar? Who in this class has a MIDI control, MIDI keyboard?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah, you got one. What is it? Just out of curiosity.
It's the M Audio
Oxygen.
something key. I can show you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jackson, do you have one? If you do, type yours in. Axiom.
If it focuses.
Oh, Axiom 49 or 61?
Axiom 49, sorry.
49, gotcha. Good.
Older, but it works perfect. I used to have a different one, Nova Station. Nova. What's it called?
Novation.
Yeah, Novation.
Yeah. Jackson. Looks like you can have MPK Mini Plus, which I have somewhere in there as well. Nice.
I got this one.
Oh, you got a mini one too?
It's an old one, really old little LPK 2012.
LPK.
Cute.
Yeah, it's.
I've got a
That's a
Roland
Yeah.
RD64.
RD64. Oh, can you move to your right?
right?
Does that have wheels on it?
Wheels on it?
I don't know.
Like a pitch
Like a
bend
pitch
wheel?
pen wheel?
on the side?
I don't know. It's kind of big,
Yeah.
medium-sized.
I'm sure you do.
I'm sure you do.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you do.
You do. Good. All right.
Just go on mute for a
just go on
second
mute for a
because
second
you've got your
'cause-
speaker going, so we're getting double feedback. Yeah, cool. So all of you have the same capability. So you all have keyboards that have pitch bend on the left and mod wheel on the right. And in Morgan's case, you have a joystick which does the same thing. So I believe, if I'm wrong here, that it's either one way or the other. But I'm pretty sure your one is left and right is pitch bend, and back and
Yep,
forth
and then up and down.
is mod wheel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you're a keyboardist, this stuff is important because it's playability. It allows you to do bends and glides and that kind of thing. But then, what the hell is a mod wheel? Well, now it kind of makes sense a little bit, hopefully. A mod wheel is nothing but a playable modulation amount. So you just turn up and down, right? And that up and down depends on what you want. You can assign it to the filter. You can assign it to an effect. You can assign it to all sorts of things. And instead of like an envelope that is timed precisely or an LFO that's timed cyclically, that's the two key difference between LFO and envelopes. Mod wheels, you decide at that point in time, you play it. So you're the envelope, you're the LFO. So if you're going to go every time you press the key, that's like an envelope. If you're holding a key down, you're going like this, right? You're doing that. You're emulating an LFO, right? So it's a playable modulation. Now, what do people typically do with this? Well, let me show you. I'm going to go program the sound. Let's take the arpeggiator off. I'll show you a very typical thing people do. And you might even recognize this. Let's do pitch, LFO. But hang on, let's turn this amount down. Okay, 0.8. Cool. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to push this amount up and down, but make sure it sits on 0. Why am I doing that? It's because I want to see it as a modulation lane. I'm going to assign it to mod wheel. My keyboard's in the cupboard, so I can't be asked to stand up and go grab it and connect everything. But what I'm essentially doing is this. The mod wheel is going to increase the LFO1 amount that's currently assigned to the pitch. Now, what the hell does that do? Well, I'm going to show you how to do this. Even if you don't have a keyboard, you're going to go to envelopes. You click on MIDI control, and you realize mod wheel shows up as one of these things in the list that you can automate within the clip. So if I draw something in here, maybe you'll hear what I'm about to do. Ah, you silly. I've sent it to somewhere else as well. Don't go to the, yeah. Cool. Hang on now. What you doing? Why aren't you doing any more? Hang on, let me just see what's going on here. Oh, it doesn't want to do it. Hang on, let me go 0. MIDI, LFO. Oh no, I'm not using the right mod wheel, my bad. Let's go back to MIDI control. There's actually another mod.
I've got a question for you. I'm looking at the thing on the right. You're doing it from the bottom? I'm confused. So I went to automation, like over on Wavetable on the right, but you're doing it at the bottom?
No, so I said automation, but this is one level down. This is called clip envelope modulate.
I just can't
automation.
see it on my one because I'm inside Ableton and I can't see how I could do that.
No, so you don't do it in the traditional way. So let me show you this. That's what you're looking for, right? It's not
Yeah,
there.
I've got that.
It's
and
not
when I
there.
do it,
It's not there.
yeah,
So
yeah, it's not there.
it's at the clip level. So you have to double click the clip,
Mm-hmm.
and it's under envelopes here.
Oh, hang on. Oh, yeah. Okay, I found it. Okay, easy. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Done.
No, it's all good. And so you go MIDI control to access these, and then you got arguably too many things to control here. And it's unfortunately for me, like the mod wheel isn't quite working. So I'm going to go to MPE instead, and hopefully this will work. And find myself the velocities and release velocity. Oh, that's just too much. No, let's go back to release. There's actually 2 levels, and I'll explain what MPE is very shortly. Where is the bloody mod wheel? I thought that's it. Maybe it's another one. It's annoying. Sound controller, portamento control. There's just too many. Expression controller? It should be mod wheel. I just don't know why it's not doing it.
It's there. It's number 1 modulation wheel.
Yeah. And I can see it changing it. It's just not doing it, which is super annoying. And I know it's working because before it was assigned to something else and I heard it change. Just for fun, I'm going to assign it to filter instead, and you can see it working for sure. See how it's moving? It's moving because I drew that in. So it is correctly mod wheel. So when I go to MIDI control, it is there. Let's just draw something funky. Let's do a bar. Here's a nice little hack. If you can't be bothered drawing shapes, you can highlight an area, right click, and just choose one of these predefined shapes. And if you're really lazy, or you're pressed for time because you're teaching a class online, you can highlight a section and just duplicate it like this. So it's like, this is not the practical way of doing it. This is just kind of hacking it. What you're meant to do is perform this live. So you at home, the 3 of you, you'd be on your keyboards, the ones with the wheels and the joysticks. And what you would do is you assign the mod wheel to something. So for example, if you're a Serum or Vital user, no difference, you just got to find the destination. You just need to choose what you're going to play with the mod wheel. So over here in Serum is the mod wheel control. So if I wanted to send that to, let's send that to reverb or something. Would that be dramatic enough? No, let's do phaser. And we'll do rate. Assign that to rate. See how that mod wheel is moving by itself? But if you were playing it, you'll be going ba ba, which could be cool. And likewise, pitch bend. Pitch bend is normally default to quite literally pitch bend, but in some instruments, you can redefine what pitch bend does. So Ableton's wavetable can, Serum's can't, because it says, well, you're using pitch bend for pitch bend, mate. But Ableton said, well, what happens if you want pitch bend to do other things? So see, it's defaulted to 2 to the pitch, which means, well, that means whether you're in Serum and Vital and Ableton Wavetable, you can define how far the pitch bend pitches. So if you're using Ableton Wavetable with any of your keyboards there, when you push the pitch bend to its furthest directions, Ableton Wavetable will allow you to bend plus 2 semitones and minus 2
semitones
semitones.
and minus 2 semitones.
Yeah. But let's just say you said, no, that's not good enough. I want to do full octave jumps. You can change the number to 12. And when you push the pitch bend, you can change it. You can push it all the way up
You can
an
push
octave.
it all the way up an octave.
Dumb question. Do you use pitch bend? Do you change that for other things like amplitude or the oscillator one usually, or not really? You just stick with pitch bend with pitch.
Yeah. I mean, I would use the mod wheel traditionally instead. Because
Okay.
if I'm playing a keyboard, which is not common, I would focus the pitch bend to do glidey stuff, bendy
Yep.
stuff, and mod wheel to do kind of like an elaborate network of design. So
Okay.
to get wobbly, get more brash, get more filtered.
Yeah, and so you would usually put that in using basically your MIDI keyboard. You wouldn't basically draw it all in. You'd basically automate it through via feel.
Yeah, personally, because I've even though I've had my keyboard for ages, because I'm not an instrumentalist, I do everything on this level, and I draw it all in personally.
Oh.
So it's a much more arduous way of doing it. I used to play things in, but yeah, because the stuff I do is very precise.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with being keyboardless, instrumentless. But for you, this could be a very super fun way of recording something in with some movement that doesn't have to rely on LFOs and envelopes.
No, yep, it sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Now moving on to the big one, which not big one, but the current one, because MIDI. I'm not sure if you know the historical history of it, but MIDI came out in the 80s, 1983 to be precise. Roland and Dave Smith and a few other big companies got together and created this concept. MIDI was the result. And MIDI 2.0 is in the works. I think it's semi-released, but MIDI 2.0 has just been recently a thing. So after almost 40 years, we've had some development with MIDI. But in the sidelines, and in the last 10 years, what we had as an addition is MPE. Now, any of you here were curious into tools like this? Seen these things? Push 3, yeah. Or some of you might be more on the pulse when it comes to equipment. What are they called again? Just called controller. These things. Anyone seen that? It's a weird looking keyboard, isn't it? Or maybe this one. This futuristic.
No, yeah, check out Rolly. Is that Rolly?
It is the Rolly.
Oh, yeah, it's the Rolly. I was just about to say the Rolly ones.
What do you know about it, Morgan?
I know that they're really expensive because I was looking through all my different options and there were so many things that I would do if I had more money.
Oh, hey, you're just talking to me. Yeah, tell me about kids, right? Anyway,
yeah.
yeah. Why these instruments are a thing is because essentially they are MPE controls, right? And MPE, whenever you see a demo of it, seems like it does a lot, right? It's very expressive instruments, right? But the thing is, what they don't tell you is it depends on how you map this instrument, right? But what MPE is this? Let me show you this. First of all, MPE stands for what was it? Multi polyphonic expression. Right. And as you can see here, if you just don't mind muting your mic again. Or do you have headphones? It will stop the feedback. I think that would be better. Yeah. Because I know it's easier to chime in when you need to, but the speaker thing is is causing feedback. So yeah, if I click over to MPE, I can see velocity. So okay, something we recognize, that's cool. But we see note PB. And PB, so far, we know it means pitch bend. What the hell's note pitch bend? Is that the pitch bend dial? No, I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about controllers like this on the screen, or the push 3 again, or this Osmos thing, where they're not so much keys as they are surfaces, right? So even though we're looking at this gloriously expensive $3,000 controller with 64 buttons, not quite, Morgan. You're that machine. That's just straight velocity and note, which is fine. I freaking love that thing. I used to have that myself. But you know, these controls are more recent, right? So yes, kind of like yours, Morgan. They just got these 64 triggers, but what you don't see as obviously is you can actually glide your finger along these buttons, and there's middle points. So for example, say this is your keyboard, because you can put this in keyboard mode. Imagine that's the root note, because that's what the lights mean, root note. So C, C sharp, D, etc. Right? So what you could do, instead of going C, C sharp, or whatever, I can't vocalize it. What you could do is glide. You can go and glide between the notes and go back and forth like that, which makes it super like solo friendly. You can go that kind of thing, right? And not only that, it's in specific corners of the pads, you can get it to do different things. So if you push the pad towards the top right, you might be able to open a filter or something like that. I say might because it will only do that if you assign it, right? So if I go back to Ableton's wavetable, it appears that I can send note pitch bend. Well, it's already set to pitch, so it's going to do what it says to do. But what's interesting here is slide, which is the in-between parts of the keys, is already set to oscillator position. So in other words, if I was able to play with the push 3 controller, for example, and I glide between areas of the notes, it will do this. It will push this up. And again, just because I don't have that control doesn't mean I have zero access to it. You can hack it by clicking onto MPE instead of envelopes, and you can just look for, let's see, slide, which is this one. But this is going to kind of wig you out, because compared to envelopes, the drawing of this is a little bit more interesting, I think, anyway. So I can do that and go. Let me just get rid of these. I don't need to see these for now. We'll go back to that later. Let's hide lane, hide lane, hide lane. I just want slide. So slide here. This is how you do it. So I can get this note to slide up here, this note to slide up here. Whoa, okay. So that's moving by itself. So imagine you're playing this instrument, you're pressing your notes, but you're pushing towards the edges of the buttons, and in theory you can get it to do different movements in the synth. And that's why MPE exists. For people who are really tactile based, they can really create a lot of extra movement and expression, provided they set it up, right? Now, if something like this sounds interesting to you, this extra level of expression, may I make a suggestion and look into the touchy, touche, touchy, touche. I call it. I think it's meant to be touche, but it's kind of, they don't put the accent there, so I'm just going to call it touchy as well. It's still expensive, but it's a block of wood that you can press in and push forward, left and right, and diagonal. So it's an MPE controller that you can put on your desk and play it. And it's kind of like a weird, ADHD toy or something like that. But you can just have it on the desk, plug it into a computer via USB, and just go woo woo with the wood panel. But with the right instrument, you can get it to do a lot of movement. So what that kind of is really cool for, let's say you already programmed some notes in. Let's say your keyboard, you're happy with your keyboard that you have currently. Just play whatever part you're in. You can do this MPE stuff after, right? Which is fascinating. So if this kind of world of tactile expression is interesting to you, then I'd look into something like that.
I do have a question for you about it. So does this something that maybe if you were doing like a duet or a dual thing where one of you singing and the other person wants to basically have some expressive kind of, do you mean Ableton-y stuff running kind of live, that might be a useful thing?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, artists like well, they're more solo, but that's what they're doing with their hands essentially. I was going to mention Imogen Heap, Kimbra, these sort of artists. What they will do is, sure, they got effects pedals for their voices, but if they typically also have Ableton running. So for specific parts of the songs, like a synth or bass part, they will use these sort of tools to bring dynamics and extra grandeur to the sound because they know how to sound design a bit, especially in the case of Imogen Heap.
Apparently she wears wearable gloves.
Yes, she does. And those gloves are MIDI controllers and MPE controllers. So that glove tracks her movements and sends essentially values from 0 to 127. So when she opens her hands a certain way, it's sending an amount of data, and that data is sent to instruments to do exactly what I was talking about and just showed you just then. It's pretty cool, yeah. And really, the limit to what it can do is her. So she can make it do whatever she feels like. So she can make it like for example, like some ideas that come to my mind at least is I can have my fingers do various stages of the filter opening. So if I want to make it like a visual thing for the crowd to see, I can go like ba 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 ba, like do that kind of stepping motion with my fingers and make it sound like the filter's opening, right? But she has to think about the visual aspect, the playability aspect, and what she wants, what parameter she wants to control in her sound, or parameters, right? Because there are limitations to this, but it's actually quite vast, the amount of control you can do. And someone like Imogen Heap, who's an absolute genius, she's I'm sure she's thought of all sorts of scenarios to assign her gloves to. Yeah. But yes, there's not for everyone. I'll digress. Not everyone's really into this, but I know if you're into composing, it's like working for the video games, advertising, movie industry, TV. This sort of stuff is actually heavily used because a lot of people will just play their parts in, but they will assign this to like specific components to the strings sections, like dampening the strings and opening them, increasing vibrato to create tension. Like this is actually a very popular product in the composer community. Yeah. In fact, this has actually been replaced by this far more expensive keyboard that I briefly showed, the Osmos controller, because this is keys, so it's more traditional compared to the Rolly, but it has the ability to be pushed to the side and push deeper and in the edges of the keyboard. That's why it looks a little bit weird, because it's exposed keys. So they're weighted keys, but with MPE expression. So it's pretty
It's really expensive.
super expensive, which makes sense because the company who makes this is the same company that made that $800 block of wood. But they're the cutting edge of these kind of tools. In fact, the OG, the first ever MPE controller that I've seen, is used by one of my favorite, oh my gosh, Haken Continuum. I don't know why I got a Korean K-pop singer. This instrument, which looks like nothing, it looks like just a block of felt, is used by one of my favorite artists, Amon Tobin, who is signed to Warp Records. He's very cutting edge in terms of sound design and whatnot. But he also works in video games and TV, and this is his shtick: is that he'll play it like a normal keys, but then he'll push and pull to create these certain specific sounds, right? And these things aren't cheap either. Like this smaller version is close to 10K. Yikes. Not cheap, these things, but it makes sense because it's not easy to make a piece of material that has sensors all around it, because typically you only have two sensors doing velocity and velocity and key tracking, but MPE controllers have at least four, but there's more now. It's like the Osmos, and this one actually does far more than that. There's a lot of dimension into how it's made, so hard to make these things, so they charge you for that effort. Anyway, I don't want to spend too long on this. I just want you to be aware of all your modulators now. To recap: envelopes, LFO, your mod wheels, you got velocity and key tracking, you got your pitch bend, you have MPE stuff if you want to look into that, which registers, at least in the Ableton Wavetable, velocity, note, pitch bend, so that's in between notes, slide, which is the parts of that key, and pressure. So those instruments I showed you, the super expensive one, when you press it and press the note and then you push it in further, you can send more information, which is crazy. And there's a lot of powerful MPE controllers, because I'm just showing you Ableton Wavetable. In Serum, when you hop over to global, you can turn on MPE here, and pitch bend also, expressions. So what that allows you to do, and you don't see any of it here, to assign it, you go to the matrix and you go to MPE, and you got these three. You got expression X, Y, and Z, 3 dimensions that you can send to parts of the sound. And yeah, the Kontakt library stuff, all the orchestral string stuff, the good ones, they have heaps of MPE lanes to allow you to really play the instrument. But like I said, this is getting into niche, and will specific applications. I just give you the general knowledge so you're aware of it, and if you want to go more into detail, that you either ask me outside of class or go down the rabbit hole yourself, right? But yes, just to kind of summarize everything here. Don't forget that in your notes, and you get a link to it here as well, we have some references, reference sheets. We got 2. So refer to the modulation cheat sheet resource in our content library. I put links to them right here too. So envelope techniques. So this is purely envelope to certain parts of the instrument. Envelope to pitch, envelope to cutoff, envelope to cutoff again, but different kind of timings, yeah. And the other link would have taken you to LFO. So LFO to pitch, LFO to filter. So these type of techniques, vibratos, wobbles, pulse width modulation stuff, undulating stuff, I've given you essentially everything you need to have. Nothing super creative, but super typical, like stuff that professionals, sound designers, and artists have all used to various degrees, right? Auto panning, wavetable scanning, modulation. People do this, right? So use that as a reference guide. And just for fun, right now, just to kind of make sure that we're leaving this topic with at least some recollection of this stuff, right now I want everyone to choose one LFO modulation technique and do it, right? So for example, I'll do one with you now, and I'll get you to do your own, but I'm going to say here pulse width modulation, which is an LFO to pulse width, which means in my head I'm thinking I need to send an LFO to a pulse width control. So it will train me to look for that target, that pulse width target. So within Serum, and if I put this on pulse, I can use any wave in Serum. It doesn't have to be pulse, but I'm just use pulse to be traditional. In Serum, if I click under the warp tab, go to Alt Warp, and then look for PWM, that's pulse width modulation. This dial can be turned. It's too high. But I gotta remember, okay, LFO to PWM. So that means, LFO to pulse width. So I'll send an LFO to pulse width. And now I make the creative decision of how fast I want this. I'm gonna add a filter to make it a bit more control. Actually, I might use random. That could be fun. So I'm literally doing this technique right now. How's it sound with reverb and delay? Should sound quite cool. Ooh, reverb delay on. Technique. So choose one. You can choose these simpler ones that we've done before.
I couldn't find pulse width modulation on the wavetable. I got you.
Because I haven't actually covered that.
I did try looking for it myself before I asked, though.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I got you. So it's not easy to find because it's specific in a very specific area. So I'm going to put this on pulse width first. And I'm going to show you where. See where it says modern? We need to change modern to classic. That's why you can't see it. And then you see PW here. And while we're here, I might as well set it up. I go straight to matrix. Make sure I click and move this so I can see it show up on the list. It does. And then I need to send an LFO to that. You have to choose how fast, how slow you want it. And just as a tip, for me, I think pulse width modulation sounds good when it's gradual and slow. So I'm just turning it slow here, turning the rate down. And even though this number doesn't go up and down, which may suggest that nothing's working, if I look over here, I can see the actual shape of the oscillator change here. So you can see it visually. That's how you know you're doing it right, yeah? So let me know how you go with that, Morgan. And for Tim and Jackson, you choose, you can choose the same, you can try a pulse width as well, but choose a technique. I'll keep the chart on the screen, just in case you don't want to dive between screens too much. Zoom out a bit so you can see it all. Oh, it's too many.
Are we just essentially, are we automating something, right?
No, well, modulating.
But like, we can use the automation to control that modulation. Is that
exactly, yeah. But that's for you to do in your songs for sure. But just for this exercise, choose one technique, set it up. Yeah.
I'm just checking. I've got. Does it have to be? On the screen, right?
Yeah. Just for now, just to keep it basic. But you can also add on top for yourself as well.
That's fine. That's easy enough.
Yeah. But for generally speaking, this kind of like hopefully solidify your realization of where your modulators are and where to send them to, to your chosen instrument. That's kind of the point.
So I'm just confirming, I sent the first oscillator to what we just did then, which was the pitchy one. So I'm going to send oscillator 2 and link it up to the, is filter 1 frequency the frequency cutoff? Like just checking?
Yeah.
Cool. I thought so. And so we're going to do that through the MIDI though, not the MPE.
No, we'll just do traditional matrix stuff. So because we're just using LFO for now.
Okay, cool.
just
And I'll
that's-
use the second LFO for that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can use the same if you want. The reason why you have two LFOs is because you can have two different timings. Two different rhythms.
Well, isn't it better to have two different timings? You don't always want everything moving with the same LFO.
Oh yeah, I'm all about that. But sometimes you need to do something
At the same
cyclical
time,
for-
because
for like a
otherwise it sounds
bass.
weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, you need like maybe the bass and the drums to move together or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah. So it's not a fine what's the word? It's not a clear cut case. It always depends on the time, the moment, the context of it all. Yeah. But I like your thinking. Yes. Build. And because I can't hear you, Jackson, what are you going to do? Just type in which one you're going to choose and what instrument. Yeah, tell me what instrument you... tell me the technique you're going to do and what instrument you're going to apply it to. Hopefully we can do this in the next 5 minutes because I really want to get on to the main thing today. Yeah. Download yours, Tim. Let's play that.
Super simple, but it's just for the
Simple's
purpose
good.
of what we're doing.
We're just getting...
I have a chord. I don't know if you would have this already, but I have a chord pack that I got ages ago, a Unison chord pack, which is really cool. Heaps of different chord progressions and stuff.
Yeah, no, I had that too, and I've been sharing it to my students because...
Yeah, I shared it last semester.
Good. Yeah, I hope that's going
Super
around.
handy.
I just I feel like I was kind of like pissed off by how much they were marketing that thing, and I was like, it's just a core pack, and it's super useful, but $50.
Yeah, I didn't pay for it. I don't think I paid that much for it. I think I got it cheap.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So I've been sharing to my students who ask about it because I think everyone should have it. It's a nice little...
Yeah, if you're stuck for ideas too, it's helpful.
Oh yeah, super helpful for that for sure. Let's see your filter cutoff work. LFO, yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, just kind of...
Got wobbly.
I can't hear that.
No, haven't played it yet.
Is that all we needed to do?
Yep. Exactly. And of course, in your songs, you can automate that, change the rate, and all that stuff. Yeah. And the mount as well. Doesn't always have to be full blaring. It can also
automation, in my opinion, is underrated.
Oh yeah, no, you got to automate anything electronically made. If you don't automate, it's not gonna be dynamic and awesome. But yeah, let me check the chat again. Ooh, I got Morgan's. Nice. Let's check it. So you did pulse width?
No, it's just my song from today because I hate exporting things. Can I just play it for you? Can you hear that?
Yes. Nice. Yeah, it's got this almost like
It's got this
crystally
almost like
quality,
crystally
which is awesome.
quality, which is awesome.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
I really
I
like
really like
pulse width
pulse
stuff
width stuff
on, just
on
personally,
on
sustain notes,
sustain
because you
notes,
can
because
kind
you
of
can kind of
have a nice
have a
long note
nice long
that
note that
slowly evolving.
slowly evolving.
I think it's
It's
I
sort of
think it's
ambient noise and stuff too.
exactly.
Exactly.
Have you listened to much Apex Twin?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
I haven't listened to a lot, but I love this. What I have heard.
yeah. Selecting ambient
Selecting
works
ambient works
is like a morning ritual. Okay, let's move on. Although I would like to hear Jackson's, but I don't know if he's still present, but or is he just cooking up a mad storm? But either way, all good. Let's talk about audio effects. Oh yeah. Now Morgan, you have a bit of an advantage because I taught you in studio skills, because I kind of shoved a bit of effects in there, but I'm going to go into greater detail today and next week. It's a 2-week thing, right? That's why I really wanted to, because if I don't talk about it today, then we will be really behind. Yeah, so I really want to talk about effects. Now, first of all, question to everyone: who feels confident with the effects in the way that when you read the list of effects, at least inside Ableton, you know exactly what each one does? Or two?
I wouldn't say for all of them. I mean, for a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, for a lot of them.
I don't want to lie and say I know it all because I haven't played around with all of them.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I only, I stick with a lot of stuff that I know works, that I like and use.
How about you, Morgan?
I'd probably say I still reckon probably at least 70 to 80%. Even if I don't exactly know what it is, I know different types of reverb. Okay, that's a different type of reverb. Do you know what I mean? Pan, tremolo. Okay, I know what pan is. I know what tremolo is. I know what a compressor is. There's different types of compressors. I know those ones are all, EQ. Even if I don't know exactly, like I think most of them I have some idea of most, 80% at least.
Yeah, for sure. That's good. Well, that doesn't surprise me, because at this stage, especially in diploma, most people have dabbled or at least used to some level of proficiency. What I want to do when I'm talking about effects is to make sure you know the more niche as well as the more kind of straight ahead knowledge when it comes to these effects, right? For example, question: what do you use reverb for?
Giving something space or some wild effects sometimes.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, there's a new Hornet plugin out called Spaces, which allows you to place sound interestingly in rooms to create really dark subconscious stuff, which I'm using for the show.
Nice. You can do that with Ableton's convolution as well.
Mm.
Okay,
I think with reverb too, you can also not just make something sound like it's in a space, but you can actually give it space within a mix as well. Just make it sound a bit more lively and not so dry.
100%.
To give that a bit more of a
100%.
meaning.
Totally agreed. So let's talk through reverb quickly, because we might as well start off with that. Yeah, reverb. Everything that everyone's saying is absolutely correct. Now, to be more specific, when using effects, even the dry wet control is super important, because to me it's not just a simple amount of effect, so in this case amount of reverb. Think of it as foreground, background. Yeah, because if there's a reverb set to 50%, let's just say, let's make this sound a bit more soft. And it needs some modulation. It's starting to kill me. I hate static sounds. So I got reverb. I'm going to make it sound super expansive. But just to make this clear about dry wet, look what happens when I go from a little amount. It's in the space. You can hear the reverb tail, but the sound itself is clear, the actual synth sound. So it's kind of like the sound's in the space, but it's still kind of in the foreground. The effect is in the background. If I go high amount, that perspective is switched.
What can be, I don't know if I can mention this. Something I like doing too with regards to reverb, especially lately, is like in some parts you might not have as much, and then you automate the end of it, the tail, if there's like a space after it to like go to 100%, and it kind of
Yeah.
fills that space as well.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun to do, and then you can like go and like pan and do some weird things with delays and stuff as well.
Yeah, no, I love it. That's
It's
what
a
I
lot
do
of
as
fun,
well. It's fantastic. But yeah,
especially with vocals too.
great with vocals. Yeah, 100%. Although with vocals and certain sounds, I'll go back to this point, but I would use
Oh, you're right.
Sends. I'll use Sends instead.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, not on the main track.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have
For
used the buses
tails.
all the time, whatever you want to call them.
Yep. Nice. So I'll talk about that maybe more next week, or if we got time at the end of this week. But yes, you notice how that perspective switched. It's the same reverb amount, but it's like the sound's gone to the background instead. It's lost in that space. I lost the clarity of the sound, right? Right, which is cool as well. Now, why am I talking about dry wet first of all? Is because for some people, they forget about the power of dry and wet, and they kind of just leave it kind of towards the middle. What I hope for you is to never do that. Because I think when the effect is in the middle position, 50%, it sounds bad. Like it's neither clear, neither fully affected, right? So in other words, you're not pushing it into that space, or you're not saying, I want this sound up front and with the effect. Does that make sense? So in other words, for me, my kind of tagline, I talk about this, and it's pretty memorable once I say it, in my opinion, because everyone kind of jokes me about it outside of class. 50-50 is the same as half-assed, right? So don't use 50. If you want the sound to be clear with some of the effects.
It's non-committal.
Non-committal, exactly. No commitment, right? So I'd say if you want a clearer notion of the sound, 30 or less, kind of that ballpark, generally speaking, to have it more in the front with some processing. Or just, if you're putting reverb and you want to push in that space, then push in that space above 60. Above 65 even. Like, it's not a rudimentary number, but it's a guideline, right? Just push it further, because there's no rules, but as a suggestion, if you're going for it, you might as well go for it. But if you're trying to make it sound clear, then you got to think about having it in the foreground as well. So to the 9s and 10 o'clocks, 8 or 9 o'clock, just never 12 o'clock. Go further instead of halfway. Yeah, so
Do you think it's good to again, like I just, this is something I like doing, is I always turn things up to 100 just to hear how they sound first,
oh yeah.
and then kind of like pull back to where it like sounds right. I guess it depends on a lot of different things, but
No, that's an excellent
otherwise
way
you
to...
don't really hear the effect sometimes. If you have it on like 10%, you might not actually know what it's doing.
No, so in terms of like learning what the effect is actually doing, having it like fully 100% is the best way. It's a great way. I like that. That's how I learned. So otherwise I wouldn't know what the effect is doing. It just took maybe 3 or 4 years to realize I don't need to have it so high every time, because I used to go too much. Because I was into like dubby, dub reggae kind of stuff. So everything was like fully wet with not enough definition. So I noticed that I want some more clean stuff. So I like the contrast of heavily processed versus nice cleaner stuff as well. Now, before we move away from reverb, just to recap the controls, some of the easiest controls to remember is the decay time. That's the tail of the reverb. But if you're not using the EQs and the filters right now, then please promise me you will from now on. Because if you don't EQ your reverbs, you're not tuning your reverbs. So, was that a point you made to the question?
How do we EQ our reverb?
It's right here. There's two EQs in Ableton's reverb. The input side and the overall washy effect of it, the diffusion network, which is essentially the reverb body. You can tune it. So my reverb, when I open it, it's not what you see on your own reverb. It's been tuned already. I normally, when I put reverb on stuff, I don't want it to affect my low mids and my lows at all, right? Because for me, for the stuff I put it on, which is typically pads and vocals, if I don't cut it that high, so if it's like more down here, it's like instant mud. I never need those frequencies with my reverb. I just need to kind of enhance the melody, the pad, the harmony, whatever. So typically I don't need any body, like any low rumble in it. And I also subdue some of the tops. So anything above 5K, I normally take down a little bit because I like my reverb on the warmer side. That's a personal decision, right? That brightness of the reverb is a personal decision. But even then, as a mixing technique, I would highly suggest you high cut your reverbs. Yeah. And another tip as well, another key control that is often forgotten is the pre-delay. Does anyone know that? Pre-delay, what does that do?
I hope my memory is correct here. Is that just the amount of time before the reverb actually kicks in?
Bingo.
Or something? Yeah.
Right. What were you about to say, Morgan? Okay. Now, why is that important? It's because, again, you see my default reverb is set with 10 millisecond pre-delay. Why is that important? It's because I need to hear the note before the reverb tail. If the pre-delay is on 0 or the fastest setting all the time, it might sound too undefined. So typically I want the note or the shape of the sound first and then reverb tail. Even if the reverb's short.
Is it the reverb short? If you kept it like fully on, is it a way of almost creating like a pad though on like an instrument that is like a waffle instrument that goes underneath?
Yeah, I guess for drony,
or not really.
Drony ambient type of sounds, you don't need heaps of pre-delay, I suppose. But for me, because I put it on normally plucky sounds like arpeggios or my melodies, my melodies benefit from having pre-delay because then it's the space is there, but then the definition of the notes there, especially if I'm doing all this work designing them. I don't want the sound to become muddy. But for drony type sounds are super sustained and they're just like droning, then the reverb, I suppose you don't need pre-delay. It's like, for me, pre-delay is important for definition, especially for vocals, mind you. If you want vocals to kind of like be on the more clear side, having some pre-delay helps so much, right? So something to think about, right? And you don't need much. You only need like 5 milliseconds typically. But for me, I like even a bit more distinction, so I push mine to 10. But 10 is negligible, by the way. It's like the amount of latency that you experience when you press a key on your keyboard when you're recording into Ableton. It's negligible. You can hear it, but it's not like 1 second off. It's 10 milliseconds is nothing. Yeah, but that's good to remember. That's your I guess your basics. But let's be clear about another thing here. In Ableton, you have 2 main types of reverbs covered across 3 devices. Okay. Now, anyone heard of the term algorithmic versus convolution? No, it's very obvious I got convolution here, but has anyone heard, and more importantly, know about the two? You don't? That's totally cool. So Ableton Reverb.
So
What was
It's
that?
one you can
What
program.
was that?
Is it one that you can program?
Well, you can program
You can
all,
program all.
but they are different mechanics, yeah? So Ableton Reverb is purely algorithmic, yeah? Convolution Reverb is obviously convolution, and Hybrid does both. Either or, right? Now, what's the difference? Algorithmic means that the reverb is generated with pure mathematics, digitally, yeah? Which is cool, because some algorithmic reverbs sound great. Ableton's reverb sounds great. There's no reason why you shouldn't use it. And my favorite reverb that I use is algorithmic. The FabFilter one, it's algorithmic. But what's convolution then? Convolution is exactly like that spaces thing you were talking about, Morgan. It's where you can record something called an impulse response of a room, put it into a convolution reverb device that can register that impulse response, and then it can map out a reverb based on that impulse response. And the impulse response is quite simply getting a sine sweep. So I don't know if you can hear this because I don't think it'll go through the master. But basically, people will go to spaces around the world or specific facilities. They'll play a sine sweep that goes something like that, and they record that result in space. And that sound in that space will obviously have its own characteristics. And Ableton's already done this for you by going into places like whatever Arundel Nave is, or a bog standard club, medium size, small size, Ellie Chapel, German Concert Hall, New York Center, New York City Sports Center, St. Andrew's Church. So they've been to these places and recorded impulse responses, right? Which sounds really cool because then you can put the sound in that space, theoretically. So, got 3 reverbs going on. Let me turn that off. So this is convolution reverb. Apparently this is what wavetable sounds like in Arundel Nave. Let's go to Stairwell. Sports Center. Or Swedish nuclear reactor. Really cool concept. I barely use convolution reverb for that purpose. Why? Because there's one major flaw with convolution reverb, in my opinion, and this is a personal opinion that some people agree with, some people don't care about. But if you think about it, the theory of it, an impulse response is a recording of a sound in that space for that moment in time. And the thing is, that's not how sound works, because sound is different frequencies, different timings, constantly. It's controlled chaos, especially if it's noise. But if it's a specific tone, then it's way more factors than a single sine wave over a certain time. It's just too much to consider. So I think while convolution reverb is a good idea in theory, what it lacks is dimension, because this is just a single capture that's less than 5 seconds here of a place in that time for that moment, not for a multitude of sounds, how sound actually expands in the space constantly, how it bounces back and forth. So to me, that's the flaw. But that's okay. You don't have to think that's important or not. But personally, what I find more fascinating is the fact that convolution reverb devices, they can accept any audio because impulse responses are just wave files. So if you want to go all experimental, you can put in things like the sound recordings of, I don't know, let's see here. Where's my buckets and stuff like that? I had a whole thing. Here we go. Claustrophobia. The sound of a dustbin, which is not interesting. But where it gets interesting is if I decide to record very textural sounds. Or scrapes. Electrical coils. And then also, when I like doing this to sounds that are not just pads, because I don't care about putting them in space. I'm actually caring for little nuances. It's a bit more interesting when you're using like textural stuff. Anyway, and I find that even more interesting when I put it into drum sounds or stuff like that. But yeah, convolution's cool. And hybrid reverb.
So for convolution,
Yeah.
you can put any WAV file into it,
Yeah.
and it'll basically give you some kind of reverb based on that weird ass WAV file.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's determining things like length and EQ tonality, essentially. So it'll devise a reverb design based on that impulse response, which that's what it's looking for. But because that you can put any audio into it, for example, if I put vocals in it.
I use it a lot in guitar tones as well, IRs. But I don't use them myself. I just don't. I find the sounds aren't good enough.
No, they're not, because of that impulse response limitation I told you about. It's like the limitations of the capture. It's not how sound works. But the future of convolution that could potentially kill convolution usage at all is machine learning. That's the next wave. So Tim, you're probably well aware of Neural DSP.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
And it sounds great because it's machine learning.
Right.
Yeah, it's a system that people think it's AI, but it's not. It's just constant scanning and coding and relearning of how sound goes through that device. And as it gets used more and more, it gets better and better because it keeps capturing these nuances of sound. So that's why Neural DSP sounds mint. As cab sins and whatever, like the Corey Wong stuff and all that, like it all sounds so good. But that's because it's machine learning, and that's where it's at. It's new. There's literally just new developments this year of people doing machine learning stuff on preamps and mics and turntables, just so that in the next year or two, someone makes a tool that allows people to put sound in the vinyl or sound in a microphone. Yes, there's companies like Slate and Universal Audio who said, oh, this mic can profile that. That's all impulse response, so it kind of sucks. But watch this space, because Neural DSP are cutting edge. They're going to amps, sure, but they're moving to pedals next. If not, they already got some pedals. And there's guys who are going to the next step of doing it to like Neve preamps and super out of range consoles that we can't afford, but we should be able to get our grubby hands on in the near future. It's awesome. So that's the future. But yes, hybrid reverb combines the two. Now, I don't care about that because the convolution part is the same as the convolution reverb in Ableton. But just so you know, if you don't use hybrid reverb and you're using Ableton reverb right now, let me make you aware that the hybrid reverb is newer, and the algorithmic part, which you can just go to this selector here and switch it just to pure algorithm. These algorithms are different to the normal or Ableton reverb. And for example, for some people, they've heard of this term called shimmer, and they might even buy pedals or software that have this shimmer thing. Ableton's already got it in hybrid reverb. That's the only place you can find it. So this sound, whoops, get rid of that. pitch. I can change this pitch. Let's put arpeggiate off. Actually, it does work better with arpeggiate. Off. No shimmer. So pitch delay reverb. That's what shimmer is, and we have it here. So hopefully you haven't gone out and bought a Eventide Black Hole or Strymon.
Valhalla shimmer.
Valhalla shimmer. Look, that's relatively inexpensive.
It's fine.
Oh my God, I have a what do you call it? It's I have a Fender Aquamarine pedal, which is crazy.
Does it have shimmer? It sounds like it does.
I don't know if it's shimmer. It's this thing, but it's really expensive. This one here. It's from somebody though.
It looks like similar to the Strymon Big Sky. Aquamarine.
It's really pretty though for live stuff.
Yeah. Is that what's called? Aquamarine?
Marine Layer Reverb.
Marine Layer.
Marine Layer Reverb by Fender.
That sounds like it's got shimmer on it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does by the sound of my ears.
It says special, which I would. Yeah, I would bet that's the shimmer component. A playable reverb's awesome anyway. Like a hardware reverb's awesome. But if you didn't have it, just know that hybrid reverb has it too. Yeah, and it's got more. It's got this rhythmic reverb, which is kind of fancy. So that's like a rhythmic reverb. There's a super metallic one, which sounds like this. Super unrealistic sounding, but that's kind of cool. It's got a dark hole as well. If you want a nice warm, long reverb. Basically, what I'm saying is this hybrid reverb sounds different to this one. So if you had a problem with this one, switch to this one.
Okay, I have one quick question for you. The vintage button doesn't seem to work.
It
and
does.
Also, what is the freeze thing? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's just not working for me when I click it.
It's very
It doesn't
subtle.
turn. Oh, you got to slide it more.
Yeah, you
Okay,
gotta slide
sorry.
it.
Okay, that's cool. But the other thing is, what does the freeze button do?
Oh yeah, check this out. Just keep going, even when the notes stop. Once it stops looping. But what I can do is change the reverb parameters. It literally does what it says. It freezes the reverb.
That is what I'm going to put in my show as part of the torturous session of one of the things. Maybe the bit in between before death. I don't know. That's pretty freaking psychologically torturing. Or am I wrong, Timothy? Isn't that sound like you want to poke your eyeballs out like you're stranded somewhere in the middle of the moon or somewhere?
It went for long enough, yeah, probably.
Yeah, well, the thing with the freeze is exactly that. It's designed in a way to A, help you do drones, B, help you do transitions and specific sections, and you notice here there's a little arrow button. It allows you to do interesting things if you're a live looper. So what I mean by that is if I decide to go this, freeze, and I play it again and add it, it just builds. And then add it again.
Oh my God, that's perfect for the torture of everyone getting to the point where they're losing their minds.
Exactly. So you can imagine doing singular vowel if you're a singer, you do little vowels. You can go R, E, O, but just
Yeah,
add this
I
real
yeah,
ethereal
that's
thing.
perfect.
Yeah, super performance friendly, and it's easily to be mapped on. If you got spare buttons on your keyboard, which both of you do, all three of you do. What you can do is you can just easily map these buttons to make it performance friendly. So I can map it. Well, because I don't have a MIDI controller anymore, I'll do the keyboard mapping and map it to my keyboard there. So when I press P and O, it does that. Stack, stack, stack. Definitely more experimental, but cool. Yeah. All right, let's move on quickly. Because I want to cover the basic ones today, because everyone knows reverb, but it's good to go into that detail. Yeah. Delays. You got a few delays in Ableton. You got quite a few actually. Let's go filter delay, grain delay, echo. Delay. I don't need to ask the question. You get repeats, don't you? Duh. Right. But what effect does it make? Well, it can make it sound trippy, can make it sound ethereal. You can do some interesting feedback stuff with it, especially with echo. I think Ableton's echo is the most powerful one. But yeah, predominantly I just use the normal delay because essentially it does the same thing. But the echo has a bit more control, a bit more power to it. So it depends what you're trying to do. If I'm looking for simple note delays, so different, kind of like trippy rhythmic properties, then sure, just the stock delay does well. If you never figure out what these numbers are for, in the stock delay, it literally means 1/16, 2/16, 3/16, 4/16, and you do the maths after that. Not the best setup in the world. Other companies just put on 8th note, 6th note, dotted notes, which makes them a lot more sense. But if you don't mind doing quick maths and something that's super lean on the CPU, see this in the bottom left here, it says 0 samples. It doesn't take much to run this, so it's very performance friendly. But yes, what's important to remember besides the timing factor is that you either have synced or unsynced. And never be afraid of unsynced, because what the sync do is leaves it on whatever timing compared to your BPM. So 2/16 is 8 note delay. Yeah. But if I turn the sync off, I have whatever time I want. What I really like is the really short ones, which makes it sound slapbacky, Elvis-like. And if you have high feedback, it starts sounding like a flanger. Especially if you automate that. Pretty fun. And it will make sense next week when I talk about flanges, because ultimately phasing, flangering, chorus, they're all made from the delay. And the delay itself was made from tape, thanks to a certain Mr. Paul, Les Paul. So Les Paul, through his amazing experiments way back in the 50s, and 1950s, he was experimenting with tape heads. He realized a lot of people just use single head play heads, and he was like, this is dumb. Why don't we put an extra one? Why don't we put 2, 3, 4? And that allowed him to go, oh, if I stagger them, their playback, oh, it's making a repeat. I like it. I'm going to put it on everything, which gave us styles like surf rock and that Elvis reverb delay effect, slapback effect. Like, that's Les Paul's fault, and we thank him for it. Not only that, it's that multi-tape head thing that he realized also. Hey, if I put a system where I have an eraser behind the playback head, what I could, in theory, do is allow people to overdub, which that's his fault as well. The ability to lay something on top of an existing piece of audio, which we take for granted in Ableton. Back then, done with tape machines, he created the overdubbing technique. So we have a lot to thank for. Plus multi-tracking. He came up with the idea of multi-tracking, which of course the Beatles love, and they explore that a lot more. So the Beatles use a lot of the pioneering techniques. So they gave us a lot of the paradigms for music production, but it was Les Paul's innovations that allowed us to do so, which is cool. Anyway, so yeah, delay times, very cool. And you can unlink them so you can have both sides different times to kind of create that stereo effect. Nice and trippy, very surf rocky. Now notice that when I change the time, I get this pitch effect because Ableton's delay by default set to repitch, which is to emulate what tape sounds like. When you slow and speed up the time, of course, the pitch will change because that's how tape works. It speeds up and slows down, pitch will change. If you don't want that, change it to fade mode. It does it more smooth with no pitch deviation. I need to make the sound a bit more defined here. Give me envelope. Yep, cool. Something's overriding that for me. Why? Sorry, let me just make sure this is all defaulted. Also EQ your delay, which is the fact that I told you it's important to EQ your reverbs. It's also important to EQ your delay. Don't have it fully blaring unless you want nothing but a bad mix. Everything sounds flat, everything's taking up headroom. Really ask yourself, where do you want to put it? Darker sounding delay, brighter, thinner. This is fine if that's the only element in your track, right? But if it's in the mix of other elements, then actually tune it where you want it to be. Feedback. The higher the feedback, the more repeats. We should know that by now. This button next to it makes it infinity, makes it into a loop. Cool, but luckily Ableton's delay never creates a problematic feedback, whereas in the case of Echo, the feedback is problematic because it goes over 100%. But if you like Karma Police by by Radiohead, you might play with feedback delay effects like that to get sounds like this. So if you do know the Karma Police song, you probably know what I'm talking about, the outro of Karma Police, where you hear that weird pitching thing that happens at the end. What happens is that the vocals are going through the tape echo effect that they had, the super expensive Roland Space Echo they had. But here we have Ableton Echo that can do the same thing, add the reverb here, play a little bit of a sound, add over 100% of feedback to create a feedback loop. Things can get scary when things get too much and distorted and potentially hearing damagey. Pull it feedback straight down to 0 and you'll be fine. You gotta know how to control it to be safe with it. That's the lace. The lace. Now there's more facets to it, which we won't have enough time to talk about it. But hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight on how to use your effects better. EQ your effects, helps the mix. Be good with your dry and wet, so you can push it towards the front of the mix or towards the back. All right, people, I gotta go. More effects to be talked about next week, especially distortion types and the more fun experimental phasers, flangely, spectral stuff as well. And I'm going to show you, if you don't know it already, how to actually use the vocoder. Because I find that a lot of people use the vocoder wrong. So I'm going to show you how to use the vocoder in the traditional sense. So you play your keyboard and make robot sounds like Daft Punk, but also how to use a vocoder to help your drum sounds and synth sounds. Okay, cool. All right, people, enjoy the rest of your week. Same time next week, yeah? Bye now.
Okay.
See ya.